Well guys, I'm back with you again. My apologies for not getting a video out any sooner, but had a ton of stuff happening, work and death in the family, lost my dad in December. Work had to take precedence over making a video, and I'm very sorry for leaving you guys hanging and not being able to get you answers of how I finally solved this 2000 Windstar 3.8 liter major vibration. We had thrown parts at this thing in every which way possible, and it came down to kind of a last resort thing. We finally found out what it was. You'll never believe what it was. It kind of blew my mind. Never thought about it. Of course, we looked at the harmonic balancer. This is the original harmonic balancer. As you can tell, it's a one-piece unit. And many of you suggested that indeed this is what it was. Of course, that was taken into consideration as I reached out for you guys. Yeah, I wanted some help with this, but again, we just had no clue as to what was exactly happening with this thing. We'd gone through it and of course rebuilt it, and if you look back at my previous videos, you'll see that we did everything to this thing, all the way down to machine work, everything else. So, but I'm happy to report that I finally figured out what it was, and it happened one day. A friend of mine was looking at it, and they said, did you check the crankshaft? And I said, are you kidding me? The crankshaft looked fine. There was no issues with it. So he said, well, let's take a look at it and see. He asked me if I'd done a run out on it. I said, no, I didn't do that. I did it on the mains and the counterweights and everything. Didn't see any issues there. And so he said, let's do this. So we came out here, took the harmonic balancer off, which was this one here. Is actually the one-piece OEM. And took it off, and of course with the motor being aluminum in the front, you can't put a magnetic holder there to the front, so we fashioned a quick stainless, or a little cast iron thing, something that a magnet would hold to, and we turned the motor over real slow, and I couldn't believe it. We were out something like 10 thousandths of an inch on the nose of the crank. But yet, in the center of the crank and on the counterweights, there was no issues whatsoever. I mean, I literally put a run-out gauge on it, no problem. Well, it wasn't even enough to notice the harmonic balancer moving in any odd way. So, of course, that just went right past me as everything was fine. And if you look at this harmonic balancer, everything looks perfectly fine on it. I mean, the rubber's in good shape. There's no deterioration whatsoever. Everything looks good. So of course that went right on past me. It was not even a thought. So what we did is we found out it was way out. And he said that indeed he's a balance specialist, I believe is what he called himself. So we talked to a few machine shops, and they said, yeah, we'll take it out, we can straighten it, if it's X amount out. So they wanted an outrageous amount of money to do it. So we weren't about to go there. And then I would, of course, have to disassemble the entire motor and go back all through that. Wasn't going to happen. So my friend said, well, why don't we just do it in the car? Well, first we had to find out why this thing was bent. What we found out was that some numbnut was trying to do something on the motor and jacked the motor up on the harmonic balancer. Of course, that's a lot of leverage out there. It pushes up on the end of the on the end of the crankshaft, and with it bending like that, these things apparently are made out of Budweiser beer cans or something. So we found out, yeah, that's what had happened. Is somebody had put a jack under there and lifted it, and apparently bottomed it out up underneath the firewall here, or the edge here, and just kept jacking it, and apparently lifted the car on this end, so it bent the crankshaft, the nose of the crankshaft, the very end of it where your timing gear is and everything else. But the funny thing is, we didn't see any abnormal wear on the the pan or the gears or the front cover or the timing cover or the gears or anything. When I replaced it, everything looked really good. So apparently it wasn't enough outside of tolerances to make things rub. So, but that's what had happened to that. So we got to thinking, and we figured if you jack it up and it can bend it, then we should be able to bend it back. So we gave it a lot of thought, and we found out that it's about 1.5 inches or something like that on the crankshaft end. So what we did is we got a very thick wall pipe. It was something like an 1/8 inch thick wall pipe. It was about 4 feet long. I wish we had filmed it, but I was in an area, I was somewhere else where we couldn't film at the time. I didn't have a camera or anything else. And so what we did is, I think it was about 4 feet long, and we lubed up the end of it and pushed it onto the end of the crankshaft after, we had to lower the entire carriage down of the motor. So then we used that, we blocked it, and then tied it down with some straps to the main carriage. And what we did is we turned the motor over until, this is an exaggeration, but where the crankshaft was bent down the most. So then we slid this pipe over the end of the crankshaft all the way up until it just wouldn't go anymore, and that was up to the timing gear, the bottom timing gear in there. So we put a jack out here on the end of this 4-foot pipe, and we jacked it up quite a bit, just guessing, and then we would let it down and pull the pipe off, put the runout gauge back on it, and turn it. And we kept doing that until we got it to, I believe it was like 2 thousandths out. So we were wondering, okay, it's probably going to go back once we, get it running and that type thing. So we put everything back together. Notice that, we ran the runout gauge on, then put everything back together. And then we said, you know what? This is the original harmonic balancer, so we need to go ahead and replace it. So I got to looking around, and nobody had it. Everybody had this Dorman garbage, and I wouldn't put Dorman on a lawnmower. And plus they were super expensive, and wrong ones every time. Every one of them were wrong. They did not fit this vehicle, no matter what. So did a bunch of research, and I found out there's a company called Pioneer, and Pioneer is also called ATP. So I got a hold of them and found out that I could use a 96 to 98 harmonic balancer, but the problem, well, initially we didn't realize this, but it did not come with this pulley here, the serpentine belt pulley. It just came with this part down here, the bottom part down here. It had the trigger wheel and everything else on it, but it didn't have the serpentine belt. So, of course we could put that on, but it wouldn't do any good we couldn't drive any accessories because there was no belt attachment. So we had to solve that problem. So I got to doing some research, and when they sent it to me, in the picture it showed the pulley. But when I actually got it, of course it was just that bottom half. So I got to doing some research, and I called up this place called Rusty Acres. It's a local exclusive Ford junkyard. So I called them up, and they said, well, we got a whole bunch of pulleys down here. Come down and see if you can match it up. So I got down there, and about the 4th or 5th pulley, I was digging through this big old box, and happened to pick one up, and I sat it down on it, and the bolt holes, see, this one is all one piece. It's all one piece. So I set this down on top of it, and the bolt holes lined up absolutely perfect. So then I took this one and set it on the floor next to it, and I put it up to it. Absolute perfect height on everything, even the serpentine ribs, everything was perfect. And the diameter, of course, was very important. The diameter of the pulley was absolutely important because you have a trigger wheel and you got all this other stuff that has to run off of that one pulley. So what measured it, everything was dead on. And I looked on the front of the pulley, and they had marker, like a yellow marker on there that said 93 Ford Taurus. 3.8 is what it said. I'll insert some pictures and let you see what it looks like. I had taken some pictures of that. So the harmonic balancer that I had to get from Pioneer was $197. but Ford wanted almost 500, and there were only 2 left in the entire United States. One was in Indiana, and one was in, I believe it was Texas, some part of Texas. And they wouldn't budge off the price because they knew that those were the only 2, so they decided to go ahead and rake people over the coals. So I ended up getting the Pioneer, and the part number is DA 1830. That's Delta Alpha 1830, and it's by Pioneer. You can order that from probably most any place. And so I ended up getting that, and I had to go to Napa and get the bolts to mount the pulley to the harmonic balancer. But that wasn't a big issue at all. It's like $4 in bolts. So I paid $7 or $6 for the pulley. So I'm in at 220 bucks at the most for everything, rather than 500. So what I did, got home, excited, put it on there, fired it up, and the engine ran absolutely glass smooth. Couldn't believe just how smooth it ran. Sorry about the vehicles here, quite a busy road. But it ran absolutely perfectly smooth. Of course, that almost brought tears to my eyes. After this journey, and after all of y'all's suggestions, to find out this is what it was, something so simple, but it got past me. It literally got past me that I didn't check that part, and I should have. Harmonic balancer is perfectly fine. So I know many suggestions, the harmonic balancer, but surprisingly, it's fine. I did not try this harmonic balancer back on there after we put did the initial crank thing. We put that on, the new one on, it ran perfectly smooth, so then we took it back off just to make sure. So then we did put this one back on, and it ran equally smooth, but I had already purchased this, so I decided, well, just in case the numbnut that jacked the engine up with this one did something to it that we're just not seeing, I'll go ahead and replace it. So I have this one here. And so we got to teasing. We were like, this thing runs like a Lexus Smooth now. So, and it really runs like 1,000% better than what it did. And I don't know if many of you remember back in the day, Lexus used to have this commercial where they took wine glasses and they would put on their engine, and it would run so smooth that it wouldn't vibrate the liquid inside it. And there was another commercial where they would stack these wine glasses up on the hood of the Lexus and start the vehicle, and it would run absolutely smooth. Now, obviously, mine's not a Lexus or anything like that, but it was shaking so bad that it was just incredible. I mean, if you look back at my other videos, you can get an idea. It looked like one of those machines that back in the old days where they would put it on there and it would shake the fat off of you. So that's how bad it was back then. Now it runs extremely smooth compared to what it did. No more of the vibration in the steering wheel. The steering wheel would literally jump like this when you're sitting at a light, and then going down the road you'd even feel a very high vibration. So I decided to try my own little experiment here, and I'll show you now. Don't laugh too hard, but this is what I did. There's my Lexus thing. As you can see, I've got my version of a redneck wine glass. So I'll start it up and see what happens, and let you see just how it runs now. It does have some vibration, obviously. It's a 215,000-mile engine, and it'll settle down here in just a moment. But even with, once it brings the RPMs down much better than what it was, there it goes. It's starting to settle down a little bit. It waves the water in there, but or wine. It waves it around, but it's nothing like what it was before. Before, this thing would shake completely out of the thing, I'm sure. I never tried it, but I'm sure it would have shaken completely out of the glass. But now, this is what I have. This is what we found to be the problem is the actual nose of the crankshaft was bent. I believe he said it was in close to 10 thousandths, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while, and I really wish we had filmed it. But yeah, we just, like I said, stuck that pipe on there and were able to do that. It took a while. It took probably 3 to 4 hours to do it. But now you can see the results here. Much better. Even bringing the engine RPMs up, letting it back down, you see the difference, and the glass stays there. So that's the difference. So again, I'm very sorry that I did not get back with you guys, but had a lot of life issues happen, and ended up with COVID myself, and luckily I had very slight symptoms, hardly anything, to be honest with you. A scratchy throat and a little bit of a runny nose, and that was about it. So obviously got through that quite a bit better than everybody else did in life. So, and then of course, you know, the family tragedy of losing my dad. So, but that's what had stopped me from making a video and getting back with you guys. And again, I deeply apologize for that, and hopefully this will help someone out there, you know, figure out possibly what's wrong with their ride, and we'll go from there. You know, so if you would take what I've done, what I've learned from this, I've shared it with you. I'd appreciate it if you would share the video, and if you would also like and subscribe, and please make a comment of if you know anybody that has this type of thing. Even this motor. This motor comes in many cars. The Mustang and that type of thing. Somebody might have made this same mistake and jacked it up by the harmonic balancer, or hit something that maybe knocked it out of whack there. So, and also where to get the harmonic balancer that will now fit these motors. Many people like these motors. For some reason, they say there's more torque to them due to the intake, so they'll take the intake off of these and put them on a Mustang, and do quite a bit of extra torque. So if you would, please like and subscribe, and also please leave a comment and share the video, and hopefully it'll help some other people out. Thanks for watching.